Hello, my name is Masumi Stadler. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Quebec in Montreal. And today I would like to start by saying that I was not really good in school. My grades were quite average with a tendency of actually being quite bad, especially in the sciences. And on top of that, I would have blackouts during exams or when giving presentations because I would just be so afraid of being judged by people. So if you would tell my science teachers back then that I'm pursuing a PhD in biology right now, I'm pretty sure they'd laugh at you. When I think back what actually shaped the person who I became today, I think that it was the holidays that I spent either in the mountains of Austria or in the city of Tokyo with my family that exposed me to these huge differences between nature and overpopulated cities. And I think that really shaped my love, but also the concern for the nature of our Earth. So after I graduated high school, I really wanted to help reduce the damage we as humans have on our planet in any way possible. So with full of ambition, I moved from Japan to Austria to study biology. Actually, I hit a big wall at the beginning of my studies. I almost failed the first exams, and because I also had to study hard for the first time in my life. So I almost failed, but I somehow managed to graduate and be where I am today. I think it was quite early in my studies that I was really amazed to learn that we humans can only live and thrive because of the tireless efforts of these tiny creatures that we cannot even see but are always around us. And these microorganisms actually control many elemental cycles, including oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon, all of which we depend on through food, drinking water, and even the air we breathe. And because of this fascination, now I study the ecology of microorganisms in fresh waters. Within fresh waters, microorganisms play a central role in the biogeochemical cycling of carbon. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is being taken up by terrestrial plants, but also aquatic microscopic primary producers called phytoplankton, and they produce oxygen as a result. When they die or when the trees shed leaves, organic material becomes available to heterotrophic microbes who need to eat organic substances to survive, just as we eat plants and animals to yield energy, for example. And in turn, they do respire carbon dioxide again. However, this organic material is not one simple chemical compound, but is rather a mixture of very different diverse molecules. And some of these molecules are easier to degrade than others. And there are evolutionary adaptations of some microbes to degrade the less energy yielding molecules. And it has also been shown that depending on the type of organic material, microbes are actually more likely to invest into their biomass or reproduction than respiring carbon dioxide. Covering only 1% of the Earth's surface, freshwaters only have recently gained attention to be relevant for the global carbon cycle. And evidence suggests that globally they emit almost as much carbon dioxide as the terrestrial vegetation take up as CO2. And this is not a bad thing, this is just a cycle of how the Earth functions. However, these ecosystem dynamics also vary largely between freshwater ecosystem types. Because freshwaters are very diverse. They include streams, ponds, lakes, rivers, and also reservoirs. So you could imagine that they act all in a very different way. And unfortunately, rarely do limnologists, which is the official name for freshwater scientists, study multiple of these freshwater ecosystems together. So that's why for my current thesis we study how these microscopic creatures travel through a landscape from soil through rivers to the estuary, how they form actually these diverse communities that we observe, and how that affects the biogeochemical cycling. Researchers have already found that in a teaspoon of soil there are up to 1 billion bacterial cells, and it is also already known that a large part of microbial communities in freshwaters can actually be traced back to soils and groundwater. And if you think about it, this actually makes sense, right? Because whenever it rains, the rain flushes through soil and they just carry things along until the water finds a stream or a river to flow into. And I am particularly interested if microbes that are flushed in from the soil are just, passive migrators floating around and, waiting until they arrive in an environment they like, or if they actually contribute to the elemental cycling processes within the water. And essentially, we are interested whether there is an effect of history on aquatic microbial communities and how that affects ecosystem functioning. Overall, I really love the work we do. It's so diverse. We start with field work in beautiful places where we collect all the samples, followed by lab work. In my case, this is where we do the DNA extractions to find what kind of microbes we have in the samples, and which is then followed by actually a lot of computer time, but this office work involves many steps from bioinformatics, data analysis to writing, so it kind of never gets really boring. Well, who knows what the future will bring for me. I'm still in a very early stage of my career, but I sincerely hope to understand how the role of microorganisms change in our landscapes by considering also the connection between forests and freshwaters, for example, and how they respond to changes in the environment, both naturally, like seasons, but also through human impacts, such as agriculture or damming of rivers. But I think really in general, I just want to fascinate people with these tiny creatures the same way they fascinated me, because they may not be fluffy, cute, or pretty. Well, actually, if you ask me, they're quite pretty, but I'm probably biased. But what I really want to say is that they're actually a huge part of the backbone of all life on this planet, and we better do not take them for granted, because at the moment we do not really know how they will respond to climate change. So, science besides, what I really want you to take home from my story is, I don't want you to get discouraged to climb the academic ladder just because you were not born a genius. I'm not going to lie, you will struggle, you will feel underrepresented when you look around you, but you will find great colleagues, and that will probably become your friends to support each other. And most importantly, you should stop looking around, comparing yourself to others, take your own time and focus on what you're doing rather than how other people perceive you. And at least this change in mindset really helped me to overcome the stress blackouts that I had. And I think if the introverted me managed to do that, I think you can do it too.